Okay, so before we get into the video, I had recorded it just before the court win, or the court issued that the ACC won in the court against Florida State. So this really was just a hypothetical scenario at this point, though. So yeah, I don't think this is not going to happen now. But if it had happened, it's fun to look at it though. So enjoy the video though, and this is me from the future.
Alrighty. Welcome to episode 1 of College Football Conference Realignment. And here today we'll be talking about Clemson and Florida State leaving. Well, not leaving yet, but the lawsuits and them possibly leaving for the Big Ten. Now, this is all hypothetical. None of this is actually happening right now. I mean, this could, but this is just a hypothesis or scenario. So right now, in a sort of a way, there is almost this sort of cold war between the Big Ten and the SEC right now. No teams right now have a team in both states. No teams are competing in a state right now, but that could change soon, which could make some things complicated right now in competitive markets right now. As you can see, one's north, one's south, but however, the Big Ten did just get the edge on having the West right now, as they added at USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington, which is a little of a hit to the SEC market, but SEC still has more better teams overall, though. So we're going to look here. So here's a map right now for 2024. I don't know why that was 2025, but so 2024 right now, here is kind of the map right now of the Power 4 conferences with the collapse of the the Pac-12. So here we can see the SEC down south still. We have out west, ACC does have Stanford, California, but those aren't the big ones. But you can overall see how this is going. You kind of got one out west. You got one out west in Texas, Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and Kansas, and then you got one in the Atlantic, obviously, Big Ten up north, and SEC down south. So that's kind of what we have right now. Now, let's say in 2025. Clemson and Florida State are the suing. They get the grants, whatever. They win the case, and this is all hypothetical. As I said, they leave for the Big Ten. So, option one is that I think if this is going to happen, the ACC in option one would take Washington State and Oregon State and add them in. Option two, so not option yet. Alrighty, so then they could possibly add these three teams: Tulane, San Diego State, and Memphis possibly to the conference, along with those two teams. But that's option one. Option two is that the SEC will take Georgia Tech and Miami, okay, when Florida State and Clemson leave. Now we'll see. So Miami, historically a good school too, and all that. I can definitely see them getting added to the SEC, and Georgia Tech used to be in the SEC too. So that's why I think that would happen if this is going to happen in option two. So that happens. So in the SEC would solidify their market in Georgia too, and also get once again an uphold on the Big Ten in at least Florida, as they would have two teams versus one. And so then what I think Louisville then would ultimately join the Big 12, or Big 12 try to get Louisville. I think Louisville seems like a great fit for the Big 12, and that would seem more likely for them. And then to the Mountain West, which is right here, I think California and Stanford. I think Mountain West would try to reach out to these teams, try to get their hold on California, and get two other old Power 4 conference schools, or Power 5, what are we going to call them? That way they could solidify that control out there too. Then I think Big Ten then will take another stab at the ACC, take Virginia, who's in, I think, top 25 in TV market, and then North Carolina, I don't know if they were, but they're up there too, who are both historic, who also are two big schools too, which they would take. That would be the Big Ten solidifying control. However, I then think Pittsburgh would then be the last team to join the Big 12 from this. Okay, and then after that, though, I think the rest of the ACC is to collapse. You would have Syracuse, Boston College. The Big Ten would grab them to get their market up north in New England. And then the rest would, I think, the American Athletic Conference would kind of consume the rest, as I don't think the ACC could consume them, as they just would not be big enough. So then I think that right there. So let's take away the two. So so let's take away those two, and then here's our three conferences left after this whole mess. Yeah, the Big Ten would benefit a lot here. Well, let's look here at numbers. At number wise, the Big Ten in this scenario would have 24 teams. That's a lot. SEC would have 18. The Big 12 would have 18. The American Athletic Conference would have 18. The Mountain West would have 16. The Sun Belt would have 14. The MAC would have 12. And Conference USA would have 11. So here's a map of the Big Ten. The Big Ten, as you can see, spreads across the whole U.S. at both coast to coast. They have U.S. They have a market everywhere at this point. This would be really big for the Big Ten, and this would be a really big blow to the SEC. But in episode 2, we can talk about what the SEC could do to stop this. This would be the SEC. Now, not much of a change in them. At this point, this just be them having more control in Georgia and Florida. But they would make it their next expansion, though, and the next great expansion for the SEC to get up to 24 teams or 22 would be most likely out west to get that market too with the Big Ten. I don't see them taking any more teams down south, but that's just my take on it. The Big 12, I don't see that. The Big 12 commissioner said that he liked 16 teams was their perfect number. So even then, having Louisville and Pittsburgh added is kind of a little stretch. But I think if any teams from the ACC are to be added, it would be those two teams. Those two teams, I think, were in the Big East before. Now, no, it's not the Big 12, but that would make the most sense. And then in the American Athletic Conference, I would like to know who y'all think would be it, but who would be replace the ACC as the Power 4 conference? Because I feel like we could have the AAC or the Mountain West. The AAC is kind of everywhere, but as you can tell, they're kind of smaller schools too, though. And only in North Carolina you have them. Then the Mountain West is kind of pretty big out west now. They have 5 schools in California. They do have, so 4 of their schools were in Power 5 schools. Washington State, Oregon State, in California, and Stanford. And I think and you also have San Diego State and Boise State. Wyoming wasn't bad this year in ULV either. So that Mountain West and the AAC would kind of be competing for who is that Power 4 conference. Then you have the Sun Belt, who is unchanged. The MAC, who is also unchanged in the Conference USA. Well, in 2025 would have Delaware. But that's it. If you would, thanks for watching. And if you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe. And comment down below, though, who you think, if you do think this would happen, and who in the scenario 2 would be the next Power 4 conference. Again, thanks for watching.